What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am BDLM, coming with my buddy J4Y, bringing you episode number 77 of our Dota On Demand podcast. What is going on, man?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me in this episode. Really appreciate it. I think you did a spot-on job hosting these things, by the way. Can I just say?
Oh, well, thank you. Welcome back, Jay. We can't book any other guests, so you're just the one.
Oh, thanks. Make me feel real special now these days. No, I'm doing pretty good, actually. Getting through this week. Actually, apparently a huge blizzard's about to hit us here on the East Coast. So for all those other people here on the East Coast with us, make sure you buy all the ramen you can tonight, because it's going to be out of stock by tomorrow. And, of course, get your computer chair prepped, ready to play 12 to 18 hours of Dota on Thursday, and be ready to go. I think that's my plan. I don't know what you're doing.
You get your Hot Pockets on one side of your desk.
Oh, jeez.
You get your Monster Energy drinks.
Be within leaping distance of the toilet. That's all I have to say.
Yes. You know how they normally warn you to stock up on toilet paper before a snowstorm? You definitely do that if you're stocking up on Hot Pockets. That is just...
Gosh. What a mistake.
You gotta... Those two things have to go together. I'm super excited. I'm normally excited. I love the Tuesday nights, the little podcast episodes. But tonight we actually finally get to do something that we talked about doing forever ago, which is talk about a professional Dota 2 team and sort of go through what makes them special, their style, what kind of observations we make from some of the games that they've played. And tonight that's going to be on Sad Boys. If you haven't heard of them, that's cool because they've been around for a number of weeks. But I was just so inspired by some of the games that they played in the Shock Therapy tournament that ended not too long ago that I was just like, man, we got to talk about these guys. They're not sponsored, but this is a team that, one of those teams that sort of comes together that I'm just really like, oh, please just stick together, just make it, find somebody to pay the electricity bill because they have some neat stuff going on there. On top of that, we're going to be talking a little bit more about Phoenix and Terrorblade. We're going to talk about the little Year Beast guy, and we have some more challenges for you guys to weigh in on. So it's gonna be really nice. So first of all, this Year Beast, there were some laughs, there were some tears. I think mostly the latter. What were your experiences with the Year Beast?
This was not good. This was not good.
Oh.
Not that I feel like it was like a failure on the end of Valve. I feel like it was fine for what its purpose was basically just to have this event where you get to try out these new items that you got to save your ingots for, and it kind of made sort of an interesting interaction at that point. Basically, he was a big damage sponge. And, that had special abilities. Kind of like a raid boss in World of Warcraft or something like that, where you had Patchwork? Like a Patchwork. That's a good example if you play World of Warcraft. Yeah, I kind of actually forgot about him. But where it's not too complicated how to fight him, you have your 5-man group, and you, basically you're limited on gold based on how many ingots you've collected up to that point, and that was your currency for the game. So you can buy normal items. Then there was a couple unique items, like one that was like 4 staff boots essentially that kind of pushed you forward, and then there was these little like firecrackers that distracted the Year Beast or did things, because when you died, similar to Wraith Knight, you could res your allies if you were able to channel it successfully. And then as he did certain moves, he dropped health and mana pots that you could pick up to keep yourself up. And they discovered after the first day of it that Ursa and Wraith King were a bit too strong, as it turns out, with the Aura and the Fury swipes. So they basically removed those components from the event, and then people actually had to do real strategies to try to win these over. But actually we had a viewer, Joe Strivens, who got one of the mounts, the couriers, rather. I'm not talking about World of Warcraft, thinking mounts now. The courier from being, I think it's top 5%, is it? It's either top 1 or top 5% of the people who have done damage in your group. Yeah, you get the rare courier. So pretty awesome. And congratulations to him. I only played it once, and I only played the test, which doesn't even count for anything. So I have to say from my experience, because I know you didn't unfortunately get to participate in that, it just felt lackluster. But I think the main issue with it was the fact that it felt like this big hype thing, like it was counting down every day. You're like, oh, here it comes, like it's building up. We're gonna fight this guy. You know, Wraith Knight was so cool doing the PvE, and then you get to it and you're like, this half hour of just wailing on a creature. Maybe it should be like 10 minutes or something. A half hour just was like, why am I doing this with my life right now?
Yeah, I think like you said, I didn't actually get a chance to participate in it, but I think the general consensus that you find everywhere across the interwebs was that people were just in general not too happy with how it turned out. Although, to be honest, I mean, like you mentioned, we just came off of Wraith Knight, which I really enjoyed, and you figure they had to make a new map for it. They recreated a hero basically for it. Had to change some hero abilities and consider which hero should be in the mode, which hero shouldn't be. So really a lot of extra forethought that went into that not too long ago. Right. So, the fact that they have something not so spectacular, but that they also wind up releasing 2 heroes with, I think is...
That's what people were missing. I think people were missing the big picture. Like, everyone's like, oh, the event, what a tragedy. Like, oh, it just flopped. And it's like, they did release, 2 heroes, Terrorblade and Phoenix. Phoenix being even, really spanking new to the DoD scene, really, in general. And everyone's like, oh, well, they better release Sun Wukong, who apparently is, in Dota 1, this, special secret quest hero that everyone's like, oh, this would be perfect. He's going to get released on when the Beast comes. And then he didn't. Everyone's like, oh, this game sucks. I hate Valve. Volvo, please. And it's just like, okay, we're not going back to the car company. Can we just calm down for a second and remember, 2 heroes is pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. It's hard to complain with that. I mean, there really aren't that many left, Jay. I mean, it's been a long time since we've sat and talked about the heroes that are not yet in the game, but man, it is slim pickings now for heroes to add to the game. And I think maybe episode 1 we may have talked about how you're looking forward to Pit Lord, and
you get all the heroes you asked for. You've got Io, you've got Triad. I mean, you've even gotten Tusk. I think you may have even briefly touched maybe I'll see a Snowball or something. You didn't even care about him, and you got him. Pit Lord, it's just one. I just asked for one lousy hero. Volvo. Where's my Volvo Plus moment? That's mine. Give me Pit Lord. Although, to be fair, they have reworked his kit a little bit, apparently, so maybe they're not comfortable with him yet. I don't know, but...
Yeah.
Or they're waiting for the right lore moment to come out.
Yeah, well, you figure Phoenix just got added to Captain's Mode after being considered completely overpowered for quite a while, so... Maybe you have to reel these, although Earth Spirit got released and he was completely broken, and then they had to fix him a bit, so... I guess that destroys that idea of maybe they're trying to bring him into balance first before adding him to the game. But I had a couple more thoughts about Phoenix and Terrorblade, because I actually did something this week that I normally don't do, and that is to watch some of those fantastic YouTube videos of the more famous Dota people playing with some of these heroes for the first time. Got to watch Merlini play some, Luminous. Play some Phoenix, which was kind of neat. And see his thoughts on that, and got to watch Dendi and Ice 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 play some Terrorblade. It was really neat, and kind of something that before watching those videos that I had thought of and maybe didn't mention in the last podcast, which that both of these heroes feel like they need a little bit of something to go with them. I feel like both of these heroes need a little bit of setup. Obviously, Terrorblade needs some protection so that he can sort of get himself off the ground, and Phoenix, I really feel like benefits from having other stuns on the team, or people that can help ensure that he can land the fire spirits or the dive. And it was really just neat to get to see these high caliber players playing with these new heroes and sort of getting a real taste for what their potential was.
Yeah, no, it definitely, it's so much better in the hands of professionals than at our kind of MMR or something. Not that we're one of our people we knew called it trench tier, which is a bit rude, but still at the end of the day, the lower end and to our end and to higher end, seeing it in especially professional games. Now, granted, he's still playing a pub game, so it's not quite at that level yet, but it's still above and beyond, and you get to really see the mechanics come out that maybe I was going to call him Volvo. I swear to God, it's in my head now. Valve had in mind when they were designing the hero, or Ice Frog, or whoever you want to give the credit to. But in general, because we see the kit and we kind of see it in pieces. We're like, oh, that's a cool ability, that's cool. But then it all kind of comes together when someone can really play well. Kind of like with Earth Spirit, getting that Wombo combo. Like you read each ability, like, oh, that's pretty cool. But then when you see the whole thing happen in once, it's like beautiful. So I agree. It's really nice to see it at a higher level of play, so you really get a good understanding for it.
Yeah, and the thing that I thought was really interesting about watching the Terrorblade games especially was I got to see Ice 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 play it pretty much the way that I think we were talking about last week, where it's like you go for the Yasha, you go for this build that actually winds up being really flimsy, but it's really good for your farm. And then got to see Dendy play a version that went for Helm of the Dominator first. And that was something that I thought of a lot originally. I was like, yeah, I think this might be something that I do, but then I was like, oh, no, I really do like that Yasha farming. It was actually pretty impressive. He, of course, mind controlled a creep, was very good at putting up the stack, and with the extra illusions that he was able to get, and then with, I believe he got the Manta Style eventually, the ability to clear out those creeps, or even actually he had a Tinker on his team that wound up taking some of his stack. So even just being able to provide it to another hero on the team was really nice. And he actually found himself in some situations where you go, wow, the armor, the health regeneration, the lifesteal, kept him alive long enough to be able to use the Sunder. So it was neat that while this, I think, is a kind of boring hero, as some of us might think of,
Perhaps.
It's at least nice that there's a little bit of difference in what might otherwise be a pretty two-dimensional hero.
Yeah, exactly. The variations where it really comes into play, the item builds for sure, and that's the other beautiful thing, I guess, of a pub compared to a pro scene. Pro scene, 90% of the time is going to be very similar builds. You're not going to see some people go too off the chain with their items choices or skill builds. But with the pub scene, you're like, well, maybe this will be interesting. What happens if I get a Yule Scepter on Night Stalker? And then you kind of branch out from there, for example. I mean, these are the great places to give these things a whirl. So, yeah, that is. I guess that is probably one of the most interesting times you will watch Terrorblade. I'll have to say.
Yeah, and I wanted to, Mr. Fawcett's tuning in our chat, tuning in live, and thank you for doing that. There are actually 5 heroes left to answer your question. Goblin Techies, Oracle, Winter Wyvern, Arc Warden, and Abyssal Underlord. I think of those, I'm probably... It's really most of these I'm actually kind of interested in. Arc Warden, Winter Wyvern, and Oracle.
That's a lame answer. I like all of them.
If I have to pick one, I think Oracle is the one that I'm kind of curious to see.
I can't see how he's balanced, but I'm curious about it.
Yeah. He is an interesting hero, and that ultimate seems super strong. But Arc Warden has sort of always had a special place in my heart. I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to play him well. But see, and that's the other thing. Winter Wyvern, that Arctic burn, man. I don't know if you've been reading ahead, but there's some good stuff coming.
I know, this is like people going to like chapter 20 of a book they haven't read yet, and like wait, back up, Eula. What are you talking about? I don't know any of this.
Yeah, I mean, all good stuff to come though. I'm excited. They're really, techies. Can't
techies. Wait. I've had my rants about that earlier episodes, of course. So.
Maybe I'm least looking forward to that one. But, of all the other heroes, I think there's some neat stuff to see up ahead. Mm-hmm. So we also wanted to get into some other viewer stuff. A viewer question posted to our Facebook by Tobias Lindstrom. And he kind of wanted some help getting out of the maybe trench tier that you were talking about earlier, saying, hey, I'm pretty new to the game, and I've been playing a lot of support heroes. And trying to get up into the higher rankings, I find myself not able to have big enough of an impact in the game to maybe be able to generate a win. So do I need to start playing heroes like maybe your solo mids, your hard carries, that would have the kind of impact that would help generate wins? I think that's pretty much the question in a nutshell. What are your thoughts, Jay?
Well, I'll speak not as much from experience, because when I play, I'm always in a group. I have actually yet to play one solo queue game since the ranking system came out. So as far as solo carrying is concerned, like I said, I don't have a vast experience, but I have an idea, obviously, of how the game works. So I can only imagine if you just really want to continue to play solo queue. First of all, I just suggest everyone try to play in a party. If you can get friends involved, that's the most fun way you're going to be able to enjoy this game, I think, because playing with 4 random people can I mean, I guess I haven't done it very often, but from the couple times I have in the past, it was pretty stressful, needless to say, more so than even with friends. But anyways, that's just a little side note there. I do think all roles are very important. Support being a top role as well. But as far as carrying a game, you're going to have trouble. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. And I guess to start, if you want to remain a support, you really are going to have to probably be a lot more mobile. See, I guess I haven't watched your games, so I'm not sure how you actually play those out. But kind of what we've talked about in Pro Scene, you see a lot of supports that if other lanes need assistance, which I'm generally assuming you guys are losing because maybe two of your lanes are losing or something and it gets snowballed and out of control, maybe you're going to need to start doing more aggressive warding, roaming, smoking, and counter warding, and doing like things that are more on the aggressive. Because if you play as defensive support, and then you're solely depending on your carry to win you the game, and if he's not good enough, you're probably not going to get it. So I guess in those terms, that's my suggestion. I mean, do you agree?
That's a really strong way to put it, and I'm surprised that we're going to be as like-minded on this, because
That is surprising.
Like, abandon ship, go for the hard carry, kill everyone. Ah. But the support role is, I think, a really sort of weird one, because you think that that's pretty much where everybody tells you, yeah, if you're going to start there, because you don't necessarily have to be as mechanically oriented. I think the stigma is that you don't necessarily contribute as much, but I think, like you said, being mobile, I think, is the biggest part from transitioning from being like an okay or a good support player to being a great one. Mm-hmm. And especially because you look at really a lot of how many professional games go currently. You wind up having the supports. They pretty much make sure that their lane is stable. They normally are. They can leave their hard carry, and they go gank middle lane. Or they smoke up and gank middle. Something to this effect. And I think the sort of case in point for this is sort of like Treant Protector and sort of thinking about how the living armor works, right? Like the whole benefit of living armor is that you're a support that's able to unbalance what a one-on-one matchup might be, right? So, now it's not just, Weaver versus Clockwork. It's Weaver with living armor versus Clockwork. Like, you're able to exert your presence from across the map and unbalance that lane. So, if you're a support and you're stacking and pooling and you're having a good time, making a good time for your hard carry, that's great. But if you're able to, hard carry's fine, he might not be the 100% best case you can get, but if I go mid and unbalance that lane, can help create opportunities where in matchups where it might not have been there, or just exasperate that advantage that hero on your team might be able to get in those other lanes. So I think it might be better to switch to maybe other roles to try them out, see if that helps you. But I think if you're playing that support role, warding intelligently and not just at rune spots, being mobile, buying smokes, these sorts of things I think make a big impact on where you can wind up in the MMR and your success in games.
Yeah, if you're concerned with making sure, like, let's say you're a support and you have a hard carry, like a baseless or someone in your lane, and you want to make sure they have space to farm, that's not necessarily means you have to stay in that lane. If you do go to these other lanes, and let's say you get successful ganks a couple times in top or mid, and then they end up pushing a tower or causing the enemy to react, where they have to pull people out of the other lanes in order to defend or move it, that will also be just another way to give space for farm. I mean, you don't have to be babysitting necessarily to be making that kind of impact. You can be all over the map and doing it just in a different way. And so, like, at the end of the day, and the way you word it is you really like playing support. Well, then I'm not going to suggest you stray from that. I mean, like, you gave a good suggestion. It doesn't hurt to try out different roles and, see if maybe you can enjoy something else. But it's not necessary, I would say, to switch roles. I mean, I said if you were going to, I would definitely pick low-risk, high-reward heroes that will get you easier wins. I mean, obviously, every hero is pretty capable of making a big impact, but the ones I was just thinking off the top of my head, like Razors, ODs, Vipers, heroes that aren't too difficult to play but can do great damage, have great control in a fight. You can snowball really well with some of those heroes if you get off to a good start. So, Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I just want to say too, the kind of the thought that I started and maybe didn't finish earlier was, like, support starts as the sort of introduction role, but there's a reason that most team captains are your 5 position supports, and it's not just because they have the time to look around the map. I mean, you can do a lot in a game, not just in what you're physically doing in your lane, but just in game sense and understanding which lanes are gonna need help, which lanes are more likely to have trouble, to know where you should be, or do you have to have a TP really early on? Because, that's one of those things too where people are like, oh man, supports didn't have TPs by 2 minutes in. Well, right, you're trying to buy other stuff like wards and boots. Maybe that's not something you should expect to have to do. And so I think being able to be in that role is about being able to provide vision, the support to the rest of your team, literally, and then also have the game sense to know where you're likely to have problems that you can correct for them, where other players may not be able to adjust so easily in their role.
Absolutely.
That was we're geniuses.
We
over
love
here. That
viewer
sounded
questions.
glorious.
I'm telling you, we love viewer questions. So keep them coming, guys, because we are happy to answer.
Yeah, and on par with the viewer interaction is, I did my 100 games of Venomancer.
Mm-hmm.
Jay did his more or less in a row 25 games of Tusk. There were, he fell off the wagon, he got back on. It was good. It was a lot of fun, and we both enjoyed it and enjoyed interacting with you guys. So we have one more. Of course, the only thing left is to pick combinations to go together.
Yes.
And we are absolutely going to be playing some games. We are going to be streaming them to the Twitch so that you guys can watch us and troll us while we try to do them. But of course, the power is in your hands. We have 4 choices to choose from for our magical wonder lane that we're going to try to put together. And your options are Skywrath and Ancient Apparition, Sniper and Ogre, Phoenix and Sven, and Faceless Void and Jakiro. If you have another suggestion and it is ridiculous and fun and on some strange level makes sense, because I think that's pretty much the theme that goes through these, feel free to throw them out there, and if they catch our attention, we may just choose that. But go ahead and vote. Drop by the facebook.com/Dota On Demand. You can leave comments in the YouTube video, youtube.com/Dota On Demand. Which one? What are you looking forward to, or which of these do you like the most?
I'm glad you couldn't see my camera, because when you said Sniper and Ogre, my head was shaking so violently horizontally that I could not help myself but just... This combination came out of one pub game, as I recall, that I was not a part of, but I believe you, our friend Terps, and then Geno Beam ran a tri-lane with Sniper, Ogre, Magi, and Leshrac, I believe, was the third. And you guys just annihilated the game with Bloodlusting Sniper, pushing the lane with the Bloodlust and the Leshrac. I mean, it's... Ogre's a good hero, but it just seems very strange when you just hear those two together.
No, because then you get Medallion of Courage on Ogre, so you're reducing their armor. It's I think that's the fun, I think, with all of these combinations, when we were sort of dreaming them up, is that they're sort of like silly, but they make sense together, and they feel like, pub stomp, pre-made shenanigans. Skywrath and AA just amplifying the damage of one another, applying the massive slows that Cold Feet can hit. Sniper and Ogre, Bloodlusting Sniper, you get more headshot procs, you're able to do more damage. Phoenix and Sven, I mean, being able to set up the Fiery Spirits of Phoenix with a stun is, I think, huge. And Faceless and Jakiro, I mean, you add some slow, you got some stun, and then you have the Macropyre for the bubble, so I think there's some fun to be had here in all of these scenarios. Mm-hmm. And I think the plan is to play 10 games together as these combinations, and then report back. Maybe we'll switch off 5 games through which heroes we play, so we can make fun of my inability to last hit on heroes that's probably pretty easy. And we get to laugh at your warding skills.
If I even buy them, that's the question.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
E-Blade Phoenix, so that your Fire Spirits hit harder?
Well, we already went over that hero. There's Yules, there's Force Staff. There's a couple items that I feel like just might have to be a necessity, but we'll see how that goes, I suppose.
Yeah.
But definitely looking forward to that for sure. So yeah, get your votes in by next week? That's what we just said.
Yes.
By next week, and then with a winner, we will play 10 games in a row of that combination. As long as we are both on, I suppose.
Oh,
that has to be the requirement there. So,
No, just put a bot in for me. It's the same.
Maybe on a sniper bot might be better at last hitting. To be honest, I'm just kidding. Sort of.
Well, anyway, on to the coup de grace. What's the French saying? The something of resistance.
Le piece de résistance.
There you go.
Yes.
The meat and potatoes of the episode.
Go.
Talking about Sad Boys, this team that is sort of, out of the ashes of super strong dinosaurs, as well as EG, have really sort of started up since the end of January. Really a brand spanking new team. They haven't faced as many of the top tier teams quite yet. They've gone up against Liquid. They took out Empire, spoiler alert, in the Shock Therapy Cup. So, but with some really, really interesting play. And when we originally talked about doing an episode where we were focused on a team, we're like, oh, we'll pick one of these teams that have sort of been around for a while, have some history to them. But man, watching especially Game 1 from the finals between Sad Boys and Empire just sort of it inspired me with sort of just the wonkiness of their general style. And I kind of put up some thoughts here for just the general idea behind a lot of what Sad Boys do. And that's that they have a team fight-oriented safe lane, normally putting fear on a hero that isn't necessarily a hard carry. They have a high-impact, high-damage mid-lane heroes for Arteezy to play, the Shadow Fiend in particular, and then the shenanigans that he was doing in that first game as Naga Siren were just kind of ridiculous. The team fight presence and initiation that they're able to get out of Universe in the off lane, and then you have this neat mix in the supporting role played by Zai and PPD of these just, by the book choices in, your Visage, your Crystal Maiden, and then just really sort of off the wall wonky picks that just I think give this team a really unique identity.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun to watch, to be honest. They kind of give me Rock's Kiss chills back in the day when they were doing some kind of wonky out there stuff. Speed, a.k.a. Cloud9. What up, by the way?
A.k.a. whatever it is they go by next week.
Yeah, I know. It's they have a constant identity crisis on their hands, but, maybe one day they'll stick. No, Cloud9's actually been a pretty reputable carrier, so we'll see how they go. But yeah, I do love their aggressiveness, their style, their gameplay. In Arteezy, I forgot how awesome he is, and he has come back with a vengeance with his team, and like you said, hasn't gotten a lot of experience. I mean, granted, I think it might have been January when this team rolled out, or something along those lines. It's so recent, as you said earlier in the episode, and so we don't have quite as much knowledge about how it's all kind of rolling together yet, but it seems like they've already got a good amount of synergy. They kind of play to each other's strengths pretty well, and you listed out some pretty good points about their lineups. They seem to do that on a consistent basis. So yeah, you mentioned Game 1. Might as well go into it just a little bit and kind of how their style adapted this game and how they decided to take out. And this is Empire, by the way, on on not the cusp. I mean, they kind of made those roster changes a little while back from now, but they still are revamped, and they've been pretty good since the changes they've made. And this team seemed to handle them with a certain care. So it was pretty interesting to see them take these games. But the picks they went, like you said, they went the Crystal Maiden support as well as the Lion support, and then they got that Naga Siren mid, the Mirana in the safe lane on Fear, and then Timber on the off lane. So this lineup kind of reads right into what you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the one thing that I really enjoyed most about this game, and it's kind of hard to ignore really, was what Arteezy was able to do in that middle lane with the Naga Siren. Does something that we really haven't seen since like TI2, rolling out the Naga Siren as this high damage dealing hero, looking to absorb a lot of farm, go for a quick radiance, gets a quick boots of travel afterwards, gives this really flimsy build, and then is just able to sort of run around and tear people down through the course of the game. What really impressed me a lot was just the way that Arteezy was able to handle this hero. Zyori and LD were casting this set of finals, and LD mentioned, Arteezy is this player who really likes to just grind out games with heroes, to learn them inside and out, and just have it down. And I think Naga is clearly a hero that he's done this with, because one of the things I was really impressed with was the fact that he was able to be in that middle lane to get the farm he needed to, and then vanish into the jungle, pick up some of the camps there, and then come back in the middle lane, able to use the illusions to Riptide kill creeps in the lane when he wasn't there, and then also use that Riptide to help him with the creeps. And not only did this help him farm and help expand the maximum potential of gold that he would be able to get, but this rotation back and forth between mid and the jungle made it much more difficult for Empire to try and pin him down and get a kill.
It was interesting too, yeah. I mean, how the fact that he could do so well, he was against an Invoker middle. And not only Invoker, but a Quas Wex Invoker. So, he's a control Invoker. He can, manipulate the lane, he can health regen, so he can harass pretty much freely, and he's against a melee hero. I mean, how much of a gimme are you going to get in that lane? And yet he's still, like you said, able to farm, keep up, or even get more farm than the Invoker in that middle lane. He only got ganked once, I believe, though, in the early stages, but that is a lot accredited to, like you said, him disappearing into the jungle when his lane got too pushed, because he wasn't going to be overly aggressive, especially as a Quas West Invoker. You're just asking for trouble at that point. And he was able to keep up the farm, do it very well and safely. He got a 12-minute Radiance, roughly. 12 minutes, that's insane. That's with boots and a bottle. That's not even just purely naked, hey, I have nothing else. No, had a couple other little things too. I mean, that just shows how much farm he was able to get. And with that build coming out, the Riptide into maxing out the mirror image, so he could make these sturdier images that do a good amount of damage to, like you said, then take over the map, push out different lanes when you get that radiance, and really just amplify your farm tremendously.
Yeah, I was really impressed by this, and like I said, I think this is sort of the thing that's going to catch your eye through this series. But I mean, just to go through the team in general and just those major points and how they play into this game. I mean, talking about Fear and what he's able to do in that safe lane. In this game, you mentioned he plays the Mirana. In other games, he plays the Doom quite a bit, as well as some of the harder carries, like the Weaver plays the Spectre. So he does have this range of being able to play these team fight-oriented heroes as well as these hard carries. But I really think it's interesting that because they have Arteezy, who is a player that's able to play these sort of farm-dependent, high-damage, high-impact heroes, that they go, okay, well, now in our safe lane we can put our team fight. We can go for the Doom. We can go for the utility through that ultimate. We can go for the Mirana, who's going to be able to provide us, some decent damage towards the middle game, but is really going to be helping us with the Moonlight Shadow, with the arrows. I'm really interested in how Sad Boys seem to be okay with saying we don't have to necessarily take this super late. We don't have to have 3 cores that are going to be able to churn out massive amounts of damage. They can lay it sort of in the hands of the success of Arteezy in the middle lane and Universe in the off lane playing the Timbersaw.
Oh my gosh, and yet they had the capacity. That's the thing. This lineup seemed to just have. It was just a great draft, across the board. And they seem to do this on a common basis, where they kind of have an element to play, a strength in every kind of aspect of the game. If they need that early game, I mean, you look this line for example, Crystal Maiden Lion, so strong early game. Crystal Maiden, one of the top contenders for harassment, as well as getting that farm jungle if he needs to. Lion with the amazing CC, and then that level 6. When Lion hits level 6, no one's doing more damage burst than him. And just aspects like that, like you said, Mirana in that safe lane. Super strong early game presence, and then also transitions well. So they had the greed, and they also had the good team fight. They kind of had every aspect going for them, and it really just showed just to the fact that they weren't shut down in any of their lanes. Timber maybe a little bit, but he eventually, when the other team members had to start moving around to react, that's where Timber started to get out of hand, and of course started to take over the game because of his insane burst as well.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's nice to see Fear on this new lineup. He is old man Fear, been around for a while, played most of his games for EG. And it's just really nice to get to see him in this role I feel like he's, familiar with, seems to do really well in. And again, I think it's really neat that in this game, as well as in other games, you see a real range for not only Fear, but the team in general, because you also have in SAD versus Speed Gaming, they wind up going a team that has Shadow Fiend, Abaddon, Doom, Slark, and Dazzle. So it's almost this really tri-core that is all about being able to pump out damage with two super defensive supports. So almost sort of playing a completely different style, but really playing it well. And just to go on talking about Arteezy as well. We've already mentioned that he is a player that likes to grind out games with heroes, and he's had a lot of success with some of these high damage mid heroes, the Shadow Fiend, the Templar Assassin, and I just had to throw up the undefeated 3-0 Nagas Iron.
Woo!
I do believe. But he's 9-5 on the Shadow Fiend, 9-2 on the TA. Has a little bit of range himself, playing some of the Puck, 9-1 on the Puck. So really very successful with a lot of his most played heroes. So seems very dependable on those heroes that he plays a lot. Arteezy played mostly for Kaipi, but now also on this Sad Boys lineup. And I guess we've already done a good job singing his praises. But do you have any other thoughts on him?
No, just other than it's great to see him back in the seat. It's kind of like Demon when I saw him play for the replacement for Fnatic. Just remembering that these guys are still good players. They just need to find a home. And like you said, Arteezy seems to, maybe if they can keep this synergy up, he's going to continue to be these dominating mid threats. And those are the kind of threats I really enjoy seeing, are the really high damage, high burst ones, like a Shadow Fiend, like a TA. It's really exciting to watch them in action. So yeah, it's really great to see them there.
Yeah, it's neat too. I was just thinking, we have Old Man Fear, and then we have Arteezy, who is
how old is Old Man Fear?
He's an ancient. He has
like
to be in his
upper 20s by now.
Oh, he's got his senior card. He gets the cheaper drinks at the fountain, I'm sure.
Oh God, did you just make that joke? Oh boy.
But anyway, it's a kind of a neat juxtaposition against Arteezy, who is sort of celebrated for being very young and very good and being very young, and also Zai, who I also believe is quite young. So I think it's just neat to have this sort of range of experience and age in this group, and it seems to work out really well for them. But you go and you look at the sort of the third point, that the teamfight presence and initiation that comes from the offlane. And Timbersaw is of course a popular offlaner, but one that Universe been playing quite a bit and very well. Also playing a good amount of Puck for Sad Boys in that offlane. And then of course you have to go for maybe the other staple, the Bristleback, making his presence known as this other sort of core hero that's able to get up into the thick of things and add a lot to the team fight.
Yeah, Timber and Puck obviously very, very large initiators in that regard. Clockwork, another one, but Bristle, very durable. Yeah, all these very nice team-oriented heroes, and that's kind of a common theme among a lot of offlaners. With the exception there of Alliance. Emerald goes a little bit more of the heavy carry kind of offlane, but still, you do see a lot of these kind of heroes, and he just plays them exceptionally. He's been all over the place. He used to play that support role, I believe. It was more of his style back with his previous team when they were Complexity, I believe it was. Was that? Yeah, that was correct there on his old team, but. Now he's transitioned more into this offlane, and he's doing a fantastic job with it. Clearly knows the ins and outs of these heroes, and I don't really have much more to say about that.
Yeah, I was just, I feel like another stable player that is really a strong addition to the team, and I guess finally PPD and Zai, this supporting cast that mentioned earlier, sort of standard picks that also sort of go with these really sort of off the wall ones. And not that Lion is crazy surprising hero to see. He's certainly not a common one, and I thought it was funny that I couldn't find a picture of PPD, but I could certainly find a picture of Crystal Maiden. And his eye, it was like I could find a picture of his eye, but it's really hard to pin him down to a hero that he plays really normally, or to try and assign him a signature hero. I mean, of course he has a couple games as Visage, but he's played the Lion. He's played a support Wraith Knight, and I'm sad to say I haven't gotten around to watching that game yet.
Wraith King.
Wraith King. God, they've had to
He's not the event, is he?
He is. He's the whole event.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yes. I believe Zai might be the only person not from North America, I believe from Sweden. So yeah, throw the wrench in the works. But I think it was really interesting that you get to see in this game in particular, Game 1 of Sad Boys versus Empire, that there was actually some really early warding that you saw actually made a pretty big impact in the game, and it was sort of just off-placed, somewhat standard wards that actually helped the universe avoid getting first blooded. And both these heroes, like I mentioned earlier, when you compare this to the game of Sad Boys versus Speed Gaming, you have them playing the Dazzle and the Abaddon, really defensive supports. So you get to see even more this range and this play on heroes that, like Abaddon, who really isn't all that popular anymore, getting picked up and getting played effectively.
Yeah, there's definitely some lineups that can make great use of him. Like you said, especially the ones that may be a little more on the greedy side, or like to dive, or the players that go greedy. And speaking of that, Fear is, I swear, him and Havoris may be brothers of another mother, because they are both, I believe, very greedy in their kills. They lock on and sometimes get a little too narrow-sighted and kind of just tunnel vision onto a hero. But it doesn't necessarily matter too much if you have a good supporting cast to back it up. Just similar to Puppy and the Na'Vi players over there. They kind of all surround him and allow him to make these big plays, and it really plays to their strength. So I love to see a lineup like that where it's kind of like giving permission to go ahead to, hey, go for that play. We got your back on this one. So yeah, it's really strong.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Beyond the Summit anyway. I got to cast Fildy one time, and got left during a
show
long
off
pause
your fame.
Okay,
you're gonna tell me this till we're dead, aren't you?
To talk about iced tea or something during a particularly long pause. And
oh boy.
But anyway, they do a really great job over there, and that was something I really enjoyed about watching these finals, where they help sort of give you some more personality to this really young team, because they even mentioned, like you were saying, Fear is a greedy player, likes to go for the dives. In Game 2, you see that Sad Boys just have such a command of the game that they're diving tier 3 towers, and LD made a good point. PPD, the team captain, does a really good job of really trying to not only help make some of these plays possible, but helps rein them in when they start trying to go too far and they start trying to overextend. So, really not necessarily a celebrated captain or a player whose name is on the tip of everybody's tongue, but he really seems to be a good complement to the other players on this team to help give them that range to sort of stretch beyond what they might feel comfortable doing, but then also to not let them go too far and overextend where they're not able to recover it and maybe lose some ground that they've taken.
Yeah, this is a very important dividing line there that a lot of people do not know how to dance on. So it's a very, very good attribute to have in him. So yeah, I'm really curious to see what this team's capable of. I mean, they have the raw skill. We know that. It may just take a little bit of time to kind of culminate and get all this talent bundled up together and see what they're capable of. But I think they do have some potential as long as they can stick to it and get into more tournaments and really showcase their skills on the higher spectrum of teams, and against some of these Asian teams as well. I mean, that also is just a whole other ball game when you play against them. So it'll be interesting to see how that transforms.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of one of the things when we started this up I wanted to mention is you have them taking out Empire. That might be sort of the best hunting trophy that they have to show right now. They took out Liquid as well. They've taken out some smaller teams pretty convincingly and, again, with some really interesting strategies, but they haven't gone up against the Alliance, the Na'Vi, they haven't gone up against, like you said, many of the strong Asian teams or any of the Asian teams that I've from my research. So I'm curious to see if they are a squad that's going to be able to go up against the real Dota 2 powerhouses, those tier 1 teams, and teams playing other unique strategies. But, this is maybe the first time in a long time that I've seen a team that isn't sponsored that I'm like, man, stick together, make this happen, because they've just done a really stellar job putting together a fun and strong lineup. And I think that combination is very difficult to come by.
Well, I'm curious. Can you also I mean, I can't find anywhere. Do you have any idea where they decided to come up with Sad Boys as their name? Now, granted, when we see them in Dota 2 games, the team name actually says Arizona Iced Out Boys.
Yes.
What's going on there?
I don't know. It is the sort of remnant of EG. They have some other sort of fun names they go by. I think it's like Judas 2.0 Dota. So obviously they've kind of just started up, so what they decide to actually go by is maybe up to them. While they're writing their destinies, they can write their team name as well. Yeah, I don't know. But, maybe they'll be like, LGD int in not too long if they try that again.
Yeah, well, that name kind of has a little taint to it right now, so they need to get that wiped clean, perhaps. But I don't know. I just think it's a pretty unique name. But then again, we've seen some unique names. I mean, so I guess I shouldn't be too. At least it's not like inappropriate or anything. So
there you go.
It could always be worse.
Yeah.
But in this, this is a little bit of a tangent. But hey, that's what we're good for, going on tangents, I think. But I'm starting to now draw a comparison to Team Zephyr. This really has a very similar feel to it to me. For those who are not completely aware of them, it's kind of this team with Blitz. It's got Purge. It's got a couple other players. I'm sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head all their names. But it's kind of like this. You've known their names from streams, from different guides, from all these other places, but they're like, I guess they decided to come together and make a team and go for it, and they're actually in Korea playing in different tournaments and everything, and looking actually really strong. We're not 100% sure, and like I said, very similar to Sad Boys because they haven't played a lot of top teams or anything, so we're not really sure where they stand on the grand spectrum. But it's really cool to see teams join the scene and look like maybe possible contenders. The more contenders, the better. We don't need to see every grand final be Navi and Alliance. It's nice to kind of mix it up and see different styles played. So I don't know. I don't know how much Zephyr you've kind of heard about or seen, but I thought I'd bring it up because I think it's a really interesting mirror that I see in that.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, that is a nice point to bring up. I mean, a lot of these players, I feel like they've sort of maybe had their time in the spotlight. I mean, I don't think, names Fear, Arteezy, Universe are ones people go, wait, who are you talking about?
Right.
But they certainly haven't maybe had the best runs at, being able to get the big titles that, the prestige that comes with, being some of those top tier teams and top tier players. But that's also, I think, the other cool thing in talking about both this team and Zephyr is, I don't want to be one of those people that's like, as soon as one election's done, you start figuring out who's gonna run like 4 years from now. But it's a little early to maybe be talking about contenders for the next international. But you figure if
early.
if you're a team that wants to be a participant in that, you have your eye set on being a part of that tournament, then now is really when you want to start cementing things. Because of course, one of the criterion for being a contending team is stability and showing that you play together, that you are high skilled, but that you stick together. So you figure, some of these teams that are taking shape, they gotta sort of get themselves into form, into permanence, so that when the invitations start going out, they can say, yeah, we've been here, we've been playing Dota hardcore, and we deserve a spot.
Or at least an invite to the qualifier. If nothing else, that would be an ideal spot to be in as well. But yeah, no, that's actually a very good point you brought up there. And it's only 6 months out. That's kind of weird. in a way. It's like, didn't it just happen? Like I'm still rewatching the play over and over. That's like on my favorites list on YouTube. I just like I'll weave it in between like an Ellie Goulding song and a cat video, and it's just it finds its place there. It's very good.
Yes, that has a very special place in my heart. That video, like, oh man,
wherever you want the chills, the shivers. It's a great place to go.
Yep, it's very, very good for that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we want your feedback. This is obviously something we're doing for the first time, really looking at a team more in depth. What teams do you guys want us to talk about? Did you like this style of episode? Please come by facebook.com/DodaOnDemand, youtube.com/DodaOnDemand, and leave us your thoughts, your concerns. We of course want you guys to chime in on who we should play 10 straight games of. Mm-hmm. I'd be okay with if you picked the Phoenix one because I want to play Phoenix, and I also think it's equally funny to watch Jay play Phoenix. So
yeah,
there are lots of reasons to stop by and say hello, and of course, if you have any other viewer questions. So you have any other thoughts or closing thoughts?
Nothing other than just thanks for tuning in as always, and we're definitely looking forward to some feedback. I want at least 10 answers. That's my goal here. That shouldn't be hard, guys. You guys can do it. I know you guys got it in you.
Absolutely. So, thanks you guys for dropping by. Tobias Lindstrom, thanks for your question. Thanks Tyson Fawcett for tuning in live. Turbs145 for tuning in live. Thank you all for listening week in, week out. Go out there, play some more Dota. See y'all next week.